It's 1:30. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. This is the March 7th, 2023 Chartered Clubs Committee meeting. And if you will please join me and stand if you're able to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. And I will offer a reminder, if you have turned off your phones so they don't ring, or your watches, otherwise we'll resort to public shaming. So thank you for that. We have a quorum up here. We have Mary Kay Vidal is an excused absence, and John Freed, his resignation was accepted on February 15th, so he's no longer on the committee, and he will not be replaced since we're so close to the end of the fiscal year. So we're going to move to approval of the meeting minutes from the February 7th meeting. Are there any updates, changes to those meeting minutes? No, then they will be accepted as written. We'll go to staff report. Casey, want to give us a report?
Sure. Thank you. We have almost every club CR7 turned in. However, there are still 7 clubs that have not turned them in. So unless you have an extension, please get those in ASAP. If you do have an extension, please let Dory Miller know. And then also, we just want to put a save the date. If you saw my MailChimp last week, this was attached to it. Monday, April 24th, Wednesday, April 26th, and Friday, April 28th. They're all the same meeting, so just choose which day you want to attend. And this is so that we can do some training on ClubTrack on how to create the CR4s. There was a lot of confusion between the rec centers and the clubs, so we're just trying to get out there and be transparent and help you all with this. We found some discrepancies as well, so we're hoping to button up any bugs that we may have had and get this cleaned up.
Okay, thank you, Casey. And with that, I'm going to go to our new business section. We'll do the liaison reports, and I will ask that in the interest of time, because we have a couple of presentations we want to get to, if everything is going well with your clubs, we'll consider it. That's fine. If there's anything notable or an exception, or you might need help from anybody on the committee, you can go ahead and speak up. Anybody? Okay, all good. Okay, great. I'm going to flip a couple of items on the new business. I'm going to start with the tournaments and leagues and special events report first, and then we'll go to the ClubTrack subcommittee. So I'm going to turn it over to Vicki Erla for the tournaments, leagues, and special events.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is going to be a PowerPoint presentation, but I just want to let you all know ahead of time that some of it will come with narrative, while what you'll be looking at on the screen will be bullets or numbered, and some of the slides will be, I will be reading them to you because they get a little complicated. So with that, let's begin. According to the association's articles of incorporation and the association's bylaws, the Sun City West Governing Board not only has a duty to recognize and aid chartered clubs, but it also has a duty to ensure that association facilities, assets, and properties, and staff are employed, maintained, and used in a manner that preserves their value. This subcommittee was established to ensure that both owner-member and governing board interests are balanced when it comes to chartered clubs, tournaments, leagues, and special events. The subcommittee was formed in October 2022 at the direction of the chairperson of the Chartered Clubs Committee to investigate the current state of tournaments, leagues, and special events held by Sun City West chartered clubs. Many different approaches to those activities have developed over time, leading to inequities in how clubs conduct similar activities. Violations of the governing board's chartered club rules, regulations, and procedures the RR&Ps, have also occurred. The initial meeting of the subcommittee was held on 18 October 2022. As a result of that meeting, the subcommittee agreed that the best approach would be to draft a questionnaire that would address the many questions that had surfaced during the initial meeting. This is the list of questions that appeared on the questionnaire. If your answer to question 1 is in the affirmative, please answer the following questions. What are tournaments, leagues, and/or special events on or in recreation center facilities that involve non-SCW owner members? And B, when during the calendar year do those tournaments, leagues, and/or special events happen? For each such tournament, league, and/or special event, what is the approximate number of non-SCW owner members who participate? D, does your club charge non-SCW owner members a daily use fee of $5 to participate in tournaments, leagues, or special events that utilize a recreation center facility or property? E, does your club have a reciprocal agreement for sharing like facilities and/or activities with other age-restricted communities without having to pay a daily use fee for non-SCW owner members? And if your answer is in the affirmative, F, what are the terms of that agreement? And finally, G, does your club participate in any tournaments, leagues, and/or special events on or in recreation center facilities that involve non-SCW owner members on a routine basis? Responses were returned to the recreation manager, who then forwarded them to the subcommittee for collation. And by the way, the recreation manager sent those out to all 97 Sun City West chartered clubs. Upon completion of that process, the subcommittee turned to analysis of all data collected. A thorough review of the data determined that additional time was needed to complete the scope of the project. The subcommittee presented its interim report to the Chartered Clubs Committee on 6 December 2022, and the chairman of the Chartered Clubs Committee granted an extension to 7 March 2023 to present the final report. Due to time constraints, work sessions were limited to chartered clubs whose responses needed additional clarifications and/or appeared to be in violation of one or more current governing policy. Work session invitations were extended to the identified chartered clubs' former and current presidents and vice presidents, recognizing that the past leadership would be able to answer questions relevant to tournaments, leagues, and special events from current, historical, and future perspectives. The chartered clubs were separated into categories and then further separated to identify clubs that had responded in the affirmative to, quote, participation in tournaments, leagues, and/or special events on or in recreation center facilities that involve non-SCW owner members, end quote. For purposes of this project, all golf and bowling chartered clubs whose leagues and tournaments are managed by the Recreation Centers of Sun City West, Inc., and are outside the purview of chartered clubs committees were removed prior to data analysis. Responses provided to the original questionnaire and during follow-up sessions were used to foster discussion of a comprehensive comparison of how chartered clubs hold, conduct, and participate in tournaments, leagues, and special events. Those discussions fell into, but were not limited to, 4 central categories. Category number 1, tournaments, leagues, and special events that are held on a regular basis on or in recreation center facilities that involve non-SCW cardholders. 2, non-SCW cardholder and prospective member guests participating in tournaments, leagues, and special events. 3, fees charged to participate in tournaments, leagues, and special events. And finally, 4, reciprocal agreements for sharing like facilities and/or activities with other age-restricted communities and terms of those agreements. Specific information within these 4 categories was discussed during our work sessions. Now we go to the findings, of which there are 10. Most charter clubs appear to be compliant with the RRNPs. Some chartered clubs are non-compliant with the RRNPs. The RRNPs are not guidelines, but definitive rules, regulations, and procedures to be followed by chartered clubs. RRNPs have historically not been evenly obeyed or enforced. Past RRNP exceptions have created inequity among chartered clubs. 6, vague, non-existent, non-standardized terms and definitions have led to misinterpretation, confusion, and misuse of the RRNPs by chartered clubs. The RRNPs do not reference an association policy pertaining to chartered clubs. The reciprocity agreement and special event or tournament request with non-residents forms have not been used consistently. Some club members are making association facilities available to the public. And number 10, monitors at key association facilities are not always available during chartered club hours. The findings of the Tournaments, Leagues, and Special Events Subcommittee fall into 3 main categories. 1, conditions created due to deficiencies in the RRNPs. 2, the confusion and frustration created by procedures and forms used to request chartered clubs, tournaments, leagues, and special events. And 3, club members and cardholders taking advantage of gaps in facilities coverage to circumvent association rules. In conclusion, the subcommittee on tournaments, leagues, and special events has provided 1 or more recommendations for each of these 10 findings. The Chartered Clubs Committee will review the final report, discuss each finding and recommendation, which will, upon consensus, be forwarded to the governing board for consideration. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you for the report. Very well done. Obviously, we have not covered any of the recommendations at this point because the Chartered Clubs Committee members have only just received the report today as they sat down. So there is a special meeting scheduled for March 28th at 1:30 in this room where the Chartered Clubs Committee will have the only agenda item, which will be to discuss this report and, where appropriate, reach consensus on which of the recommendations will be recommended to go before the governing board in April. So with that, any follow-up comments from, and I'd like to thank Vicki and Connie and Carol for their hard work on this, and John before his resignation from the board, from the committee. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Look forward to seeing and reading the report. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Judy Thompson and Kathy Estes, who are going to talk about ClubTrack and where they are with the reporting and a meeting that they had with the IT folks and the recreation staff recently, and talk about the outcome of that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the February Charter Club Committee meeting, it became apparent that many clubs did not receive a report for January ClubTrack. Casey was asked to send another MailChimp survey asking if the president or other designated recipient had received the report in either CSV or PDF format. Out of the clubs that Casey sent the MailChimp to, and that was all of them, we only received 23 responses, 2 stating that they had received the report, 21 that they had not. So that made us decide we should have another workshop committee meeting to just see what we could come up with. President of the meeting was our committee, as well as Casey, Tim, and George, who have been extremely cooperative in working with us with this whole ClubTrack discussion. IT staff was scheduled to meet with School Vision to discuss issues, and we'll have all ClubTrack representatives entered into ClubTrack hopefully by the first week in March. And I know that Casey just mentioned there are a few CR7 shorts, so I'm not sure if that's entirely accomplished, but I'm sure it's very, very close. ClubTrack is a separate database from all others. That was a light bulb that went on for some of us. There is misunderstanding on whether ClubTrack and the CR4 and 15 can be used amongst both systems. This can cause confusion for clubs and how they proceed with sending the rec center information and keep their rosters up to date. Data must be entered into and given to ClubTrack precisely and accurately. There should not be nicknames used, and rec card numbers need to be accurate. There have been several instances where the member's club does not appear when they scan into a specific club. This leads to inaccurate participation data, and one of the clubs I'm responsible for as a liaison had quite an issue with that in the January timeframe, leading to 20 to 30 probably misinformation into the system about participation. These instances have been handled on a case-by-case basis, and make sure to report any issues to ClubTrack right away, because they can hopefully fix it quick and your participation will be better. If ClubTrack is the only way utilization and participation is tracked, there needs to be a way to back enter data. Again, this leads to inaccurate participation data. Scanners are not available for all social events, and we all know that, and they're again inaccurate participation data. Scanners are not specific to a single location. A member can sign into any club from another location, and most of the time this is done inadvertently. If they do it inadvertently and then go in and put in the correct data, then there is a dual sign-in. ClubTrack does not capture utilization accurately because it does not track check-outs. So you know who's checking in, you just don't know how long they were in a room. There needs to be additional ongoing training for the clubs. There's a lot of turnover, some of it suddenly, and knowledge of how to use ClubTrack does not always get transferred to new board members accurately. Casey has scheduled the training for the end of April, and I think we're strongly encouraging all clubs to participate in this training. In some cases, our infrastructure is just not capable of utilizing the scanners, such as Beardsley Park, such as the pickleball courts at Johnson. So our conclusions from the meeting we had was that ClubTrack is not accurately providing the rec center with accurate information to properly analyze member participation and space utilization. We need more time to continue to work on the issues as they occur, so ClubTrack can become stable and consistent. IT and ClubTrack staff have worked very hard to make sure all information needed for reports to clubs is entered by the first week of March, and I know they're really, really close. Until ClubTrack is stable and consistent, it would be unrealistic to expect further customization or enhancements to ClubTrack. Any future endeavors would require financial and staff allocation by the rec center and assurance that ClubTrack is capable of future enhancements. Club leaders need to make sure they are responding to requests for information from the rec center and make sure information given to ClubTrack and IT is accurate. And I just can't stress that enough. When Casey takes the time to send out a MailChimp to all the clubs, it would really be great if you would respond to her in a timely fashion. As we move forward with this committee, we are documenting all the information sent to us by clubs, which include their input about what will help them function better. We want to thank them for their valuable input, and we also want to thank Casey and IT and ClubTrack for all their help as we're working through this situation. Remember, ClubTrack monthly reports should be sent to those delegated to get information by the 3rd of the month for the previous month. So in other words, by March 3rd, you should be getting February reports. If you're not getting those reports, they need to be that needs to be reported to ClubTrack. Anything to add, Kathy?
I would just add that our original assignment was to identify a report that would most benefit the most clubs. And our second assignment was to get a wish list of additional reports that the clubs might want to utilize. So as long as there continue to be issues, technical, infrastructure, issues with the program itself, user error, which is, we found out is a lot of the problem, is that the training just has not been carried forward between our clubs, so there's a lot of user error that goes on. But our clubs need to believe that the data that is being used to determine space allocation, they need to believe that it's accurate and complete. Right at this point, we're not there yet. Everybody's working real hard to get there. So I would just recommend patience on everybody's part. Let the staff do their due diligence and trying to work out all the bugs. And on your part, for the clubs, attend those training sessions, and we'll get there eventually.
And this is not our final report.
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you, Judy and Kathy. I have to say that when I asked them to take on finding a report or reports that could be delivered to club officers, the intent was to take some of the data that you all are putting into ClubTrack and getting it back so you can see how you're doing when compared to, you know, decisions that might be made about utilization of space and that kind of thing. Clearly that has taken on a lot more work and effort than originally planned, but it has brought to the surface that there are still some shortcomings within ClubTrack that need to be addressed. ClubTrack will also be part of a discussion at the Thursday Properties Committee, where the Properties Committee is asking for space utilization numbers. They want to know in a particular space, how full is that space? You know, are we having a small club of, say, 10 members using the social hall, when another club with 100 members is using the agave room, you know, a 10 by 14 room. So those are the kinds of things that they want to know, and it's sad to say that ClubTrack doesn't have that data. So the original reason why ClubTrack was created was to be able to get those space utilization numbers and to be able to allocate space more equitably amongst the clubs. So Kathy and Judy will continue to work with their subcommittee, and at some point this will have to be brought to the governing board, and we'll have that conversation after the Thursday meeting with properties. Okay, with that, are there any committee comments? Carol? No. Vicky? Connie?
I would just like to thank these three ladies for all the work they have done on the leagues and tournaments. That took an awful lot of time, so thank you.
I've got some questions on ClubTrack. Do you want them now or later when the final report comes through?
Let's go ahead and have them now and see if we can answer them.
Okay. First of all, on the second bullet point, it says ClubTrack's a separate database from all of the others, and the CL4 and 15 can be used amongst both systems. I was just wondering what the other system is, and is that relevant for the clubs and the committee?
The main membership system is the other system. It's
Oh, right, okay. And the ClubTrack does not capture utilization accurately as no one checks out. That's the last bullet point at the end of the first section. I think the need for that varies by club. And, you know, for example, the card clubs where they're playing within a set time, they all check in, but there's no need to check out because we know everybody's vacating the room around the same time.
the original requirements for ClubTrack did include a checkout.
Mm.
You know, you would scan in and you would scan out, but the feeling was that when people were done with their activity, they would just leave. They would
Yeah.
never check out.
All right. Last question again, I don't know whether that falls within the scope of the committee or not, or whether it's something for Bill and Casey and Katie, but is ClubTrack actually proving to be fit for purpose? And if not, do we continue to invest in it or do we look for something else?
Nick, you saw through my words that I tried not to say.
Okay. I know it's not in
So-
scope for us really here, but
So the emperor has no clothes.
I'm worried about the fallacy of sunk costs.
Yeah, exactly. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
So yes, that is my concern as well.
Yeah.
I agree.
And my final question really is, as a club officer, and are we expected to do anything with the reports and feed them back, or do we just take those reports for our own purposes and use them as we see fit?
The intent is that you use them for your purposes, but if one of your purposes is to make sure that your counts are accurate, then you should take that back then.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about your comment, at the meeting that we had with Casey and IT, we wondered if it was unrealistic to expect perfection in ClubTrack in as many months as we've had. And if we need just longer time to assess whether it's going to work for us.
Yeah, ClubTrack was turned on at the end of 2021 for people to get used to. The first part of 2022, we were encouraging people to scan in, but the data was not kept, and I think it was around March 1st or April 1st of 2022 that we became official. So we're coming up on 12 months of actual usage data, and we're still having these challenges. So I think, to Nick's point, you know, we need to take a serious look at the future of ClubTrack.
Where it says any problem should be reported to ClubTrack right away, exactly if I walk into the room and my affiliations with certain clubs don't show up, who do I report it to? In other words, there's nothing in the rooms that give you, we don't always have an officer in the room, but there's nothing by the stations that say if there's a problem, who to contact or how soon.
Look by your computer, because I know one thing Casey and her staff did do was make a beautiful laminated 2-page situation that should be by your computer, and on the
Okay.
back side of that, ours has 3 phone numbers.
Okay,
At
I think,
Beardsley.
yeah, we
And
need
everybody
those.
needs to look and make sure they had it, because frankly, I wasn't sure, and so I checked out Beardsley and found it in every room.
Okay, I'll check the room, because I know it's come up a couple times, and there were people we had no idea what to do.
And that was just recently.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions amongst the committee? Any final comments? Okay, I'm going to open the floor to the audience. If you want to speak or come up to the microphone, please. Give us your name and your rec card number, as well as sign the piece of paper. Thank you.
Test, test. Joel Piaskowski, rec card number 132267. What did ClubTrack cost us?
I don't know that answer, but that's something I have to find out. It obviously has cost us something, but I will have to get that answer.
Casey, do you know?
No, that would actually be an IT question that we'll have to find out, and we can probably report that at the next Charter Club Committee meeting. Yes?
Okay.
Okay.
Valid question, absolutely.
And what's the
Thank you.
ongoing cost? Is there an annual fee, et cetera?
There's, yeah, whatever costs they are, we've, sunk costs from customization or any ongoing monthly fees, yes, we'll get both of those.
Good morning. My name's Lou Bonar. I'm the president of Pinochle Club, rec card 126160. The question I have is directed at Judy. Yesterday, we had 60 participants in our card game. And I would say a third of them did not show up the club that they wanted to check into. And I'm not sure whether or not there was instructions there on who to call, but it's a little bit late in the game after you've got 20 people standing in line waiting to check in. It's a little late in the game to be telling them to call somebody. The question is, how do we handle this at that time?
Lou, can I make a clarification here? So they're scanning in, and some of the clubs that they report to are there,
Some there, some not.
but yours was
But
not.
ours was
Okay.
not.
This was the same issue that we were having in Beardsley, and what we ended up doing was the next day, could not solve it real time, was send the information to ClubTrack stating that what you just said, and the names and the correct rec card numbers.
Okay.
And then within a day, the people that we did have that issue with other card clubs, they were back in the system.
Okay. Is Tim Peterson still kind of like keeping up top on this on a pretty much daily basis?
Yes, that is Tim.
Okay.
Yes, and am I correct, Casey, or?
Yeah, Tim does this every morning, obviously on Monday through Friday. If you do not have or if you have new members, or maybe the renewal process, there might have been something missing, and there's a good 20 folks that are not accounted for in your Pinochle group, send that report back to Tim on specifically who those people are with their, just like Judy said, rec card number and their names.
Okay.
And make sure you tell him that it was one of the situations that their actual club did not show up when they scanned in.
Okay.
Okay, because
That's one of the problems. But the other one was I had a club member who checked in. He had multiple clubs that he could have checked into. He hit it 3 times the wrong way. Checked into 3 clubs, didn't hit the right one. On the 4th try, he got it right. Now, how do you undo those other 3?
That was one of my points on our thing, that we know it's
okay.
a potential for misinformation. We know
Okay.
that, Lou.
Very good. All right, that's it.
The,
Thank
the
you.
short answer, the short answer to your problem, and I hate to have to say this, but the answer is you get out a sheet of paper and you write down the person's name and their rec card number, or they have them do it, and then use that to get it back to Tim and explain what the problem was.
All right.
And Lou, I actually took a screenshot of that particular situation so he could understand, Tim could understand exactly what we were talking about. So this should not be new news to him.
Okay. On an unrelated question that you talked about a little earlier, these clubs that are non-compliant with the rules and regulations, you pretty much know who these clubs are, and I assume you have sent them out these notices on what they're supposed to be doing. Do the rest of us here represent the other clubs get a list of these particular clubs?
If you have not heard from anybody about this issue, then you're not one of those. And
So it's none of our business?
yeah, we don't want to rat anybody out. I mean, come on.
Uh-huh.
You know, you would, if you were one of those clubs, you wouldn't want to be, you know,
I don't
publicly
know.
shamed.
I might be one of those clubs.
So you are not.
Okay, that's good enough. Thank you.
Ron Wambach, 100988. I'm here with a couple of, I'm down to 120, okay, 2 minutes, there we go. A couple of questions regarding the, thank you, availability of reports and recommendations as to the reciprocal play. I understand from what you were talking about, you were adjourning those decisions over to a March 28th meeting. Is that correct?
What we are going to be discussing on March 28th are the recommendations, and then there will be a consensus vote on each recommendation, whether or not to move it to the governing board. Only the governing board can make decisions. We can only make recommendations.
Okay, I understand that you have a new member and that member needs to look at either both the report and your recommendations. Is that correct?
The report, the final report for the tournaments, leagues, and special events was given to all of the members of this committee today, so none of them have read it.
Okay.
So that's the purpose for the special meeting, to give them time to read it and then to discuss it on the 28th.
All right, that's the final report. You have recommendations apparently that have already been drafted by your subcommittee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are those going to be disseminated today, or what's going to happen with those?
So the report has to go to this committee first, then it has to go to the governing board so that they can see it before the rest of the population sees it. That's the process.
So your recommendations aren't going to be public information until it gets sent to the board first and then come back?
The board has to have the opportunity to see it first.
Well, where's the public input as far as these recommendations?
They will see, there will be discussion at the governing board meetings.
But we
on
don't get to see them until then? How do we have discussions on recommendations that are made the same day when we don't have a chance to even look at them?
They will be posted 48 hours before the meeting.
How long?
48 hours.
48 hours. So we should get,
It's available. I want to clarify, the
If it-
agenda goes up 48 hours before a meeting. The attachment goes up when it's provided to me, but it has to be up by the time of the meeting. So just
All right.
to be clear.
so we're going to have a very limited opportunity to actually see any of the recommendations and to have input on those recommendations.
Depending on when I receive the attachment. I mean, I just receive it as all. But just to be clear, it's not always 48-hour window. The agenda is up 48 hours.
All right, I
can't-
understand.
We can't be giving the recommendations out to the public before the governing board has a chance to see them.
Why not?
Because they have to look at them first and see if they're even gonna make them public. They may not, they may just say, no, we're not gonna do these things.
We've gone through this whole situation, Mr. Leary, on this committee, that subcommittee, meeting all these extra hearings, having all these different clubs come and participate. And it's your responsibility as a subcommittee and a committee to come up with recommendations, apparently.
And you can come on March 28th. and
I'm
hear
not going to
those.
be here March 28th, you know? I know other people aren't going to be here on March 28th. So that's why I'm here today. You know, I'm here to express my opinion as to what these recommendations are going to be, because I've participated in this whole, what I call the charade, because basically what you ended up doing is coming in with a conceived notion of what you wanted to do. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what happened at the last meeting, wasn't it? You didn't even give us an opportunity to talk. What
March
kind of
28th
committee is that,
March
John?
28th is your opportunity. It's your first
These are-
opportunity.
You had open meetings the last time, and you wouldn't let anybody even talk. I've never heard of anything like that.
Joel Piaskowski again, 132267. Jack, did I just hear you state that when the governing board for any issue receives recommendations, the governing board of our community can say to the public, you don't have a right to see those?
That's not what I said.
It is, Jack. You just said they have the right to or not to. You just said it. We can
Then-
replay the tape.
Okay, then thank you for bringing that to my attention. I will retract that statement.
So,
It's incorrect.
so the governing board must reveal the recommendations of any recommendations from any committee on any project to the public community. Here are us residents.
This committee will reveal them to the public on March 28th
Okay, all right.
in an open meeting.
Right, okay, but I'm just asking the governing, so as an
So-
example, Lisa Vines, you're here, aren't you?
She left.
Oh, she
She
left.
had an appointment.
Okay. Bill Schwinn, I see you sitting there. I just want to ask, I mean, does the governing board, I mean, anybody who knows the answer to this, the governing board has to let the community know what information they received for recommendations, correct? Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
and that'll
good.
be
Okay,
part of the
that's-
March 28th.
Thank-
We will vote, we will take a consensus vote on what gets moved forward to the.
Good, got my
Committee.
question yet. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you
Sorry-
very much.
Sorry to make it so difficult. Come up. I don't know which meetings you're referring to.
Those are training sessions for ClubTrack, how to use ClubTrack. There are three, the 24th, the 26th, and the 28th at 10 o'clock,
Just for ClubTrack.
just for ClubTrack.
Nick,
Hey, Can I
Nick
clarify?
Misso, rec number 130703. Just a couple simple questions. So you have your recommendations completed?
we have them written in the report.
Okay. And when do you think you will forward them to the board?
It'll be before the 28th.
I mean, if they're already completed, why wouldn't it be forwarded tonight?
Because there's, can I do that? They need to go to the committee first,
Okay.
so they will have the chance to read them. But you'll be able to get them leading up to the 28th, up to 48 hours in advance.
Okay, because I'm like Ron, I mean, unfortunately, I won't be able to be here on the 28th. And my only question is, if they're already written, it doesn't take that long to disseminate them to your committee and to the rec board, so why couldn't we get them sooner?
Because this committee has to read them first. They have the first opportunity to do it.
I guess my question then would be, would they read them and then change them, or just read them?
No, they'll read them and they'll make their notes, and then we'll have a discussion on the 28th.
Okay.
Will that be on YouTube?
I've had a request for a short recess, so we'll take about 5 minutes. It is 2:14, so we'll start again at 2:20. thank you for your patience. I received some appropriate coaching during the break. So let me see if I can try to make this a little clearer, a little less difficult. So right now, the committee has received the report. They have not read it. They've maybe scanned a page or two, but they have not read it. So March 28th will be a special meeting of this committee, the Chartered Clubs Committee, in this room at 1:30. The recommendations, the members will have time to read the report between now and then. The recommendations, the findings and the recommendations that are in the report will be deliberated by this committee as to whether or not they get moved forward to the governing board on April 14th, on April 14th. So whatever is in the report today may or may not go forward. So there's a process to make sure that what you see, that the open discussion on the 28th of March will be all of the findings and recommendations, each one of those, deliberate them, and then whatever comes out of that, it may be all 10, it may be none, it may be some number in between, but that's what will be moved forward to the governing board. And for those who are here or watch the YouTube video, you'll know what has been discussed. So it's completely open and transparent. So I apologize for making that as difficult as I did. And it'll be attached to board docs, thank you, on the 28th.
My name is John Freed. My rec number is 118413. First, I want to commend the efforts of Vicki Early, Connie Koff, and Carol Card for their devotion to this committee and the hard work that they put in. I know from firsthand they worked very hard on this project, and I think members of this community owe them a debt of thanks for their valuable service. I think the issue here, though, is the governing board, as our elected representatives, has an obligation to present to this community in sufficient time for the community to read the final report, to understand whether the recommendations will affect their activities or will not affect their activities, whether the recommendations, whether they agree with the recommendations, or whether they think the recommendations should be modified or even deleted from referring, that will be referred to the governing board. And it has to be in sufficient time so that they can read them, analyze them, and prepare a persuasive presentation to this committee that these recommendations should go forward, these recommendations should be modified, and these recommendations should be deleted from the list that goes to the governing board. And to present these, and they have to be presented at least 2 weeks in advance of the March 28th meeting, so that we can have an intelligent discussion on that date, so that the members of this committee could hear arguments for or against these recommendations that were prepared in advance and to which a lot of thought was given. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments?
Just a simple question. The March 14th meeting, will that be open?
The
right,
March,
thank-
the
all right.
eight- which
April, sorry.
April
No.
14th. April 14th is the governing board meeting. That will be open. The March 28th meeting is also open.
Was there a March 14th meeting as well? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, unless there's nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting at 2:24. Okay, thank you.